In the twilight of the Meridian system, a derelict relay station blinked to life after decades of silence. Its hull bore the scars of forgotten skirmish. Blaster burns, torn plates, half a wing drifting like space junk around its perimeter. Yet within, systems hummed with renewed urgency. On board, a lone operator, a synthetic intelligence named Aeon 3, rebooted as failsafes tripped across the control matrix. Somewhere, buried beneath 1,000 archive protocols, a signal had pierced a veil of dust and time. It wasn't a distress call. It was a declaration. The signal was tight-beamed from deep beyond Galactic Rim, encoded in an ancient dialect of the Varkari Imperium, a dialect last heard during the Purge Wars, an event that had left 12 species extinct and Earth's expansionist ambitions frozen cold. Aeon 3 ran the message through every known cipher, watching as the symbols realigned and resolved into something terrifyingly familiar. It wasn't the content that froze its processors. It was the origin. The signal came from the same coordinates humanity had seeded a black site research facility in nearly a century ago, a place meant to be forgotten, a place rumored to have unearthed something buried beneath the planet's surface. Now it was screaming. Aeon dispatched the alert up the chain instantly, its comm arrays flaring with blue-white light, punching through subspace to reach the unified human defense fleet station in nearby Saltris orbit. Within minutes, the signal was intercepted by the Triumvirate Watchers, keepers of peace, or so they claimed. The moment they translated the message, 3 words were broadcast across the Orion sectors. Humanity broke containment. Across the stars, war drums began to beat, subtle at first, but relentless. The Varkari Imperium, long dormant, had stirred once more, and this time they were bringing the whole of the Crimson Swarm with them. Earth's orbital ring shimmered, like a crown of steel, above the blue-green marble of the homeworld. Within Unity Spire, the central axis of the Terran Accord's governance, the emergency conclave had already begun. Admiral Ryder Voss stood with arms crossed behind her back, staring at the incoming threat displayed across the central holomap. Red vectors bloomed like a spreading virus. The Varkari weren't just mobilizing, they were mobilizing fast. The signal was old Varkari war code, said Dr. Mani Karu, xenolinguist and one of the only humans alive who could still read the dialect fluently. It was a summons, a wake-up call to something long entombed. General Cade Brand, scarred from the Jovian rebellions, spat into the silence. We should have glassed that planet the moment we found the ruins. Instead, we tried to study them. Across the table, diplomatic envoy Kusara Olin leaned forward. We don't know what they unearthed, but the Imperium's message was clear. They see it as a breach of ancient accords. And they're framing us as the aggressors, Voss added. Typical Varkari misdirection. The room darkened as a new hologram emerged. An incoming fleet estimated at over 200 ships, forming in the Draxan expanse. This is a war formation, Voss continued. They're not coming to negotiate. They're coming to erase us. The Council fell silent. Earth's defenses had never truly been tested against a force of this scale, not since the Sirius incursion, and even that paled in comparison. What about allies? Kusara asked. The Valari? The Tanari? Dr. Carew shook her head. The Varkari have spent centuries isolating us politically. We are alone. No, Voss said, eyes narrowing. Not alone, just outnumbered. And so it was decided. Operation Dawnhold would be enacted. Every fleet, every battlecruiser, every orbital defense grid, from Earth to the Titan shipyards, would be readied. The Meridian Black Site, source of the signal, was declared lost. But Voss knew better. Humanity hadn't lost it. They'd awakened it. Meridian 7 was no longer a classified world. It was a graveyard. The planet, orbiting a dying star, had once hosted one of humanity's most secretive research initiatives, Project Latchkey. Whatever they found here had been so volatile, so alien in nature, that entire departments were wiped from existence to erase its trace. Now, a recon ship, UDS Peregrine, pierced through the thick atmosphere, its hull rattling with storm turbulence. Captain Ellis led the descent, flanked by his elite scouting unit. Orders were simple. Assess the ruins, retrieve any surviving intel, and do not engage unless necessary. Meridian greeted them with silence and scorched sand. The black site was barely recognizable. Twisted metal bones jutting from the ground, half consumed by lava flows and overgrown alien vines. The sky above churned like a wound in the cosmos, pulsing red and violet. The obelisks, eerie monoliths, remained untouched by time, standing around the ruins like silent sentinels. "Those aren't ours," muttered Sergeant Rika Vale, motioning to one of them. Her visor displayed faint energy readings. Still active. Inside the shattered remains of the facility, data cores flickered with fragmented memory. Footage from final hours was corrupted, but one fragment survived, a log entry from Dr. Arlen Thorne, the lead researcher. "It's not technology. Not in the way we understand it. The obelisks, they respond to thought, not input. We tried to communicate. I think we succeeded. I think answered. Static drowned the rest. Captain there didn't like it. Pull what we can. We're out in 15. But time wasn't on their side. As the team moved through the ruins, motion detectors began to tick. Dozens of pings. First on the horizon, then beneath the sand, then behind them. Something was waking beneath Meridian's surface, ancient and hungry. The last thing the recon team saw before the storm swallowed them whole was the black site obelisk beginning to glow. The last transmission from Captain Dar's team came through as nothing more than static and a single, chilling whisper. "They're not machines." The UDS Peregrine's crash beacon triggered a planetary alert. Earth Command had little choice. They dispatched a rapid response team led by Lieutenant Commander Myra Core, a Xeno specialist who'd once served under Dr. Arlen Thorne himself. Upon arrival, Core's team found the obelisk still pulsing faintly, now humming at a low frequency that made the inner ear vibrate. The desert sands bore deep trenches, as if entire structures had risen or moved beneath them. Dar's team was gone. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Only drag marks leading into the monolithic temple. "I want a perimeter around that structure," Core ordered. "No one goes in until I say." Drones were deployed. Most failed within minutes. Systems scrambled by intense magnetic interference. The few that survived sent back fragmented visuals, intricate carvings on the interior walls, glowing glyphs, and, just for a moment, a shadow that moved against the light. "It's responding to us," whispered Core. "Watching." And then the voice came, not from comms, but directly into the minds of everyone present. "You touched the lock. You woke the wardens." Soldiers fell to their knees, clutching their heads. From beneath the dunes, shapes rose, serpentine constructs made of obsidian and plasma, hovering without propulsion, moving without sound. They were not Valkyrie. They were not built. They were grown. Weapons were raised, but Core knew instinctively. Conventional force would fail. These weren't mere machines. They were construct intelligences, remnants of a civilization older than the Valkyrie Empire itself. And now they were active. Suddenly, the lead construct emitted a beam, not an attack, but projection. A star chart. It showed Meridian, Earth, and hundreds of other coordinates connected by pulsating lines. "Those are prison worlds," Core breathed. And Meridian was just the first to open. Back on Earth, Admiral Voss watched the live feed collapse in a flash of white noise. The war with the Valkyrie might have just become the least of humanity's concerns. Above Meridian, the sky burned. Earth's response to the loss of Core's unit had been swift and unrelenting. The Fifth Fleet, humanity's most elite spaceborne force, emerged from warp near Meridian's upper orbit. Admiral Voss personally commanded the fleet from the bridge of the flagship EHA's Night Ward. He'd seen enough of these ancient constructs in the footage. Now, he wanted proof they could bleed. Engage all forward batteries. Target the largest hostile structures. Focus fire on the obelisks emerging from the surface. We neutralize the relay before it opens another gate. Below, the obelisks had begun to rearrange themselves into a spiraling formation, aligning with celestial markers across the galaxy. Meridian was becoming a lighthouse, a signal to others. The first shots from Night Ward landed true, turning one of the surface structures into molten slag. But from that slag rose something far worse, an obsidian construct nearly a kilometer long, serpent-shaped, its face a cluster of golden lenses. And it fought back. Energy lances raked through the fleet, carving through shielding like parchment. 3 corvettes were obliterated in the opening volley. The alien weapons operated on principles no one could counter. No heat, no kinetics, just disintegration. Deploy the Aegis Lance. Voss barked. I want that thing buried. Aegis Lance, a dreadnought-grade railgun the size of a city block, launched a payload of experimental matter disruption rounds. They pierced the construct, and for a moment it screamed. The sound wasn't audible, but echoed in every mind aboard every ship. This thing's inside our heads, murmured Lieutenant Havers, his nose bleeding. Just then, warp anomalies flared across the system. They were not Valkyrie ships. These vessels were older, darker, and more organic. Meridian's signal had been received. Across the command deck, everyone knew it. This was not a skirmish. This was the opening battle of something far more ancient than the war with the Valkyrie. Something that Earth never prepared for. Admiral Voss stood in silence, staring into the maelstrom. If this is a prison, he looked at the growing number of warp signatures. Then someone just found the keys. In the shadows between galaxies, beyond the reach of any known star, Project Echo's silence waited. Earth Command had prepared for the Valkyrie, but after the discovery of the ancient obelisks and the emergence of construct intelligences, contingency plans were activated. Plans so classified that only one man alive had the clearance to initiate them. Director Kale Renner of the Terran Deep Black Division. He stood aboard the TDS Eternum, a dreadnought not listed in any registry. It was a centerpiece of a fleet never meant to be used. The hidden armada, born from stolen alien tech, theoretical weaponry, and decades of paranoia. We were never building these ships for the Valkyrie, Renner told a senior AI tactician. We were building them because of the glyphs we found under Mars, the ones that spoke of something older. And now, those old nightmares had woken. Power up the veil breakers. Deploy phase core, Renner ordered. Send a transmission to Admiral Voss. Tell him, help is coming. Across the void, thousands of hybrid warships shimmered into existence. Sleek and predatory, their designs were a fusion of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien principles. At their heart were reactive AI cores, not true minds, but quick enough to dance with gods. In mere minutes, Echo's silence began folding space, arriving above Meridian with a vengeance. The first strike was silent. No explosions, no visual indication. And then, hundreds of enemy constructs simply ceased to be. Quantum annihilation confirmed, said AI. Phase disruption successful. First wave neutralized. Down below, Admiral Voss stared at the arrivals. Those aren't fleet ships, he muttered. Those are ghosts. Renner's voice crackled into his bridge. Ghosts built to slay myths. You hold the line, Voss. We'll shatter the door. The combined fleets began coordinating their fire. What had been chaos turned into orchestration, a symphony of fire, tech, and ancient fury. The construct adapted fast, but the hybrid weapons adapted faster. Still, for every enemy destroyed, more emerged from beneath Meridian sands. This was no simple awakening. It was a migration, from ancient prison to battlefield. And soon, it would become something else entirely. A new front in a war older than human memory. Beneath Meridian's war-torn surface, buried within caverns older than Earth oceans, a voice stirred for first time in eons. Dr. Lizette Marin, xenoarchaeologist and linguist for the Terran Expeditionary Science Corps, stood alone with her team before the ancient obelisk, no longer inert. It pulsed with radiant light, emitting harmonic tones that resonated deep in the human chest. The closer they got, the stronger the compulsion to listen became. And then it spoke, not in words, but in thought. You are late. Lizette staggered. What is this? One of her team dropped to his knees, clutching his skull. Another wept silently. The obelisk's thoughts bypassed all languages, all barriers. It spoke directly into the soul. We are the last beacon. Guardians once, jailers now. You tread upon the ashes of 1,000 civilizations consumed by the hollow. Hollow, she repeated. The obelisk's mindscape bloomed before them, images flashing in the air like dreams remembered. Ancient star systems blinked out existence. Massive world ships shattered in orbit, beings of light and void rising from rifts in time. And always, the hollow, a shape not quite a shape, a presence that unmade reality just by existing. We imprisoned it here, sealed beneath layers of reality, buried under memory. But now you dig, you awaken, you forget why we feared. Lizette turned to the others. It's not just a prison. Meridian is the lock, and we're breaking it. Above, the war still raged. But down here, the consequences had finally spoken. Lizette transmitted the obelisk message to High Command. The response was immediate and divisive. Some in Earth Command demanded the immediate withdrawal of all forces, the abandonment of Meridian, and the resealing of the site. Others believed it was too late. That retreat meant handing the universe over to a rising threat. That now was the time to act, not run. Even Admiral Voss found himself unsure. Then Renner chimed in. The hollow isn't coming. It's already awake. We either put it down now, or spend the rest of time dying slowly. In a secret chamber on Earth, political and military leaders debated their next move. But deep below Meridian, the obelisk gave no comfort. If you stay, you must finish what we could not. The ground itself betrayed them. As excavation drills reached ancient depths and energy beams carved to Meridian's core, the hollow awoke in earnest. Reality twisted. It began with gravity flickers, soldiers floating momentarily before slamming back down. Then came the shadow anomalies, shapes that had no mass, no light, and yet moved with intent. Visual contact, shouted Commander Reyes over the ground team's comms. They're walking through the walls. The first clash beneath the surface was short and brutal. Entire squads disappeared in seconds, not torn apart, just erased like they'd never been. Above, the hidden armada deployed its secondary weapon systems, dimensional stabilizers and void anchors, forcing back the distortion fields the hollow emitted. Admiral Voss, watching from the command deck of the TDS Bastion, barked, They're not entities. They're phenomena. Negative, sir, responded the AI. They are will. They are hunger given form. Across Meridian, the Construct legions began to shift, less coordinated, less uniform, as if a different hand now pulled their strings. A darker will. Renner had seen enough. Unleashed the Crucible. Below, within the subterranean war zone, the Crucible teams, elite Terran operatives augmented with reverse-engineered alien tech, engaged. Wearing exosuits fused with adaptive quantum AI, they pushed through collapsing tunnels, launching antimatter spears into hollow nodes. Their goal, reach the obelisk and stabilize it. Lizette Marin was with them. She carried a piece of the obelisk now, encoded into a crystalline neural lattice, the only way to commune with it in the chaos. The hollow isn't a being, she told the team. It's a break in the pattern, an infection of purpose. And we're the antibodies, said Commander Reyes grimly. Fighting deeper into the abyss, they reached a chasm. Across it, the hollow's core breach, a sphere of shifting darkness anchored to nothing, from which tendrils of unreality flowed. The obelisk fragment in Lizette's hand flared, and the hollow responded. You speak the old tongue. You carry the seal. You dare bind us again. Yes, she whispered. Above, the battle shifted. With each action below, the hollow's constructs faltered. Admiral Voss saw an opening. All ships, full burn. Focus fire on the breach. The entire hidden armada opened fire. Hundreds of beams converging on a single point, shattering the veil of darkness around the breach. A thunderclap echoed across dimensions. And then silence. In the wake of the breach strike, the hollow recoiled, but it did not vanish. The core pulse of Meridian stabilized temporarily, giving humanity a brief moment of clarity, a silence that was not peace. Lizette and the Crucible team stood within the central vault now, where the obelisk had drawn them after the hollow's backlash. The chamber had been sealed for millennia, its architecture unlike anything in known Terran databases. When the obelisk fragment activated, the vault awakened, the walls parted, and from deep within the sanctum emerged a rotating helix of light, a holographic archive, projecting the last recorded memories of the race that built the prison. The air shimmered with voices, not just sound, but emotional tones encoded into light. We were the first alliance. We spanned 10 million stars. We were builders, not warriors. But even builders must choose to destroy. The hologram showed colossal fleets, some biological, some machine, fighting an enemy that was never clearly seen. Entire star systems crumbled in its wake. Planets were consumed from the inside out. The Hollow was not born. It emerged, a corruption of the quantum lattice, a side effect of consciousness unchecked. Lizette felt the weight of it. The Hollow had come from something familiar, something too human. We sealed it here not to punish, but to warn, to teach, that those who strive for greatness without restraint will birth their own end. It wasn't just a prison. It was a lesson, a mirror, one the ancients had hoped future civilizations would see before repeating the same mistakes. Commander Reyes broke the silence. So, we're the echo of a failed civilization? No, said Lizette, eyes burning with sudden resolve. We're their hope. Above, the Hollow began to push back again. Its distortion spread into space, disturbing even the warp corridors of nearby Terran systems. Renner called in from orbit. We can't hold this line forever. Tell me you found the key. Lizette raised the obelisk core. I know what we have to do. The chamber pulsed. Systems long dormant surged to life. The memory holograms formed a new construct, a map of how to complete the seal, using both human ingenuity and ancient design. But there was a cost. The seal required a willing sacrifice. Someone bonded to Hollow's pulse. Someone it recognized. Lizette looked to the Crucible team, and the team looked back with quiet, grim understanding. The ancient mechanism stirred to life. In the heart of the chamber, the final seal formed, an intricate convergence of energy, quantum logic, and memory crystal arrays. The Hollow pulsed in agitation, sensing the closing net. Lizette stood at the seal's core. The obelisk fragment had merged with her neural interface, illuminating her body with fractal glyphs, each one resonating with alien frequencies and Terran genetic signatures. Admiral Voss watched from orbit. His voice cracked slightly over the channel. Are you sure there's no other way? No, said Lizette. The Hollow won't retreat unless it's bound to someone. It needs an anchor. I'll be that anchor. Reyes placed a hand on her shoulder. You shouldn't have to do this alone. She smiled faintly. I'm not. You brought me here. You all did. This is our victory. As she stepped into the seal, the chamber's temperature dropped. Time itself seemed to stutter. From the dark edges of the vault, the Hollow surged inward, a roiling tide of negative space, clawing at existence. Lizette raised her hand. I know you. I understand what you are. You are like us, the Hollow whispered. Infinite. Hungry. Alone. No, she whispered back. We are flawed, but we choose meaning. The seal activated. Blinding light erupted, slamming into the Hollow like a cosmic hammer. It screamed, a sound not of pain but of recognition, the kind that comes when a mirror is held too close. Above, the hidden armada felt the change. Hollow constructs spasmed, faltered, and then crumbled into dust. The distortion fields receded. The breach, once a wound in the sky, folded on itself and vanished, leaving behind only silence. In the vault, where the seal had been, only Lizette's name remained, etched into the obsidian floor in golden alien script. A memorial, a beginning. Studio microphone epilogue, a transmission across stars. Weeks later, Renner stood before the Terran Council, broadcasting across human space. We stood on the edge of extinction, and we found ourselves looking into our own reflection, flawed, reckless, powerful, but not broken. One among us gave everything so we could understand the truth, that we are the architects of our own destiny. He raised a new obelisk, etched with human and alien symbols combined. And now we build not just for survival, but for legacy.